Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a B-movie review and I'll be having a look at Poseidon Rex. So Poseidon Rex is obviously going to be a straight-to-DVD/DVD movie, relatively low-budget film, and let's tell you a little bit about the plot then, shall we? So basically it involves a kind of a treasure hunter played by, I think Brian Krause is the guy's name is, and he's sort of trying to find this kind of lost gold in this kind of like deep pit in the ocean ultimately, and he's kind of being coerced to do it by some kind of shady criminal types, and he sort of blasts with some sort of sonic boom this kind of area, and it unleashes this dinosaur, this previously never seen dinosaur, later named Poseidon Rex. So this dinosaur of course goes on the rampage and ends up chowing down on all the locals, and it's up to a kind of group of ragtag survivors including Brian Krause, and you basically got this sort of blonde, big boobed scientist, this kind of couple that end up on a holiday, and this guy who's like a sort of local tour guide, will kind of band together, try and sort of stop the giant dinosaur and kind of destroy its kind of clutch of eggs that kind of sort of in the sea, obviously to stop all these other ones from hatching. You kind of got this throwaway B plot as well. Ultimately, this kind of gang of sort of criminals ultimately trying to sort of get the gold, and basically really just a subplot to kind of stretch out the running time ultimately. And essentially it's just kind of these guys just going around the island, just trying to find ways to kill this creature, and various sort of creature attacks sort of throughout the movie. Okay, so that's all I really say about the plot, because it is a very slight plot. There isn't a lot to it. It's pretty much what you're going to expect from these kind of standard sort of, you know, DVD sort of fodder films. So what's good about it? I actually thought this film was quite fun, I have to say. There are some serious issues with it, which I'll come on to in a minute, but let me say the positives. Despite the fact that it is obviously a low budget, very sort of quickly put together film, I actually found it quite a fun movie to watch. I actually quite liked all the characters in it. So you have this sort of group of characters, and you know, they're fairly sort of one-dimensional characters, admittedly. Nevertheless, I actually found them quite fun and quite likeable, and I was actually sad when certain characters end up, you know, getting killed ultimately, as you would expect some to do. So I think they did quite a good job on a very sort of flimsy script and a kind of not much characterization to actually get you invested in these very sort of stereotypical characters. And you know, it kind of runs at a fairly brisk pace. It's not a particularly long movie, so it keeps you, you know, keeps you entertained, and it doesn't really get boring. Now, on a technical level, I have to say it's a fairly sort of cheap film. There's lots of shortcuts getting you know, that you can sort of see on screen, and kind of things that just are very logical. For example, there's a few scenes where they're sort of diving underwater, and they've got the kind of the breathing apparatus actually in their mouth, but they're sort of talking over the radio and stuff like that when they're clearly not going to be able to do that. And there's shots where you'll see sort of people in the background in you know, background image, and then you'll kind of go back to them and they'll be sort of, it's completely empty and things like that. So there's kind of you know, very sort of very sort of cheap feel to it. There's quite a few examples where you'll sort of see our hero sort of shooting this creature with guns, and they'll be pointing in completely the wrong direction, because obviously the creature's obviously CGI and put in later, and these guys that haven't really been sort of instructed, it looks like, to sort of aim at a particular place, and they just tend to be aiming sort of all in completely different directions. It's actually quite amusing, and I have to say, on a kind of a minor nitpick, the actual guns as well are very weak. They're very sort of, they don't, when they're acting with the guns, there's no recoil, and the kind of the sounds that the gun makes, the kind of added in the sort of muzzle flashes and stuff, really sound quite feeble. So there is quite a lot wrong with this film on a technical sort of level. The creature itself is essentially kind of like an aquatic Tyrannosaurus Rex, with a kind of, I guess, more of a fin tail to sort of let it swim. I actually thought the design wasn't too bad, but it certainly doesn't look like it would be an aquatic creature first and foremost. And we're given no explanation how it's sort of managed to survive under this rocks, sort of all these millions of years and things like that. There's a kind of, we're led to believe that maybe that there's some kind of jellyfish in this particular part of the sea which are immortal, and it may have something to do with this creature being survived, but you know, we don't know any answers ultimately. We're never really told. There's quite an amusing scene with this kind of little baby dinosaur that kind of gets hatched as well, that seems to be nearly as lethal as the actual full-grown adult, which I found, you know, a little bit astonishing, since it is just literally a newborn creature out of an egg. So there's a whole, but I mean, if you're looking for a kind of an intelligent film and kind of one that's going to sort of take things seriously, this isn't really going to be it. And the actual CGI of the creature is going to be is fairly cheap. There's some shots that you'll find that looks particularly cheap. But I will say this, I mean, a lot of these kind of, sort of TV movies tend to kind of, you know, shy away from the effects and don't have them all that often. But I will say this does actually feature the creature quite a lot. And although there is a kind of a B-movie gangster plot, which is kind of my bugbear of these sort of things, there's always kind of some other plot that kind of just to fill out the running time. It really doesn't take too much time in this particular film. So, you know, I'm going to have to give this probably a 4.5 out of 10. It is a kind of pretty much a subpar movie, but nevertheless, I still think it has some enjoyable moments in it. So if you're a creature feature fan, if you like things like Dino Shark and that kind of stuff, you may want to check it out. 4.5. Have you seen it? What's your opinion? Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.